Today I'm in the mood to paint a fall autumn landscape. Close to where I live there's a really nice pond. It's very quiet, it's small, but it's gorgeous. And the other day we went and we took really gorgeous autumn photos. The colors were beautiful, magical. I'd like to paint some of those today in oil pastel. What? Yeah. Here's the plan. I want to create the first base layer in watercolor because I found through a little bit of experimenting in the last few years that the transparencies and really gentle softness of watercolor really meshes well with the more saturated and textured oil pastel. I love the mix of them two together. I want to create my base layer in watercolor and then apply oil pastels on top. I'll probably have the sky, the pond, and all the tree trunks in watercolor, then apply everything else in oil pastel. I also want to simplify the reference photo a lot. I want to work in a more impressionist style, and instead of using the stippling technique with oil pastel to create foliage the way I've used it mostly, anytime I wanted to create a painting, I would stipple everything, and it gave like a very busy feeling, which is fine, but I'd like to have it more impressionist and have bigger shapes that are more expressive and less detailed. So simplifying a lot of the reference photo, seeing what it gives. It might not work, I might not like it, but I want to experiment and try to use oil pastel in a different way when it comes to foliage. Obviously, autumn landscapes are really beautiful and very inspiring, so that's what I'm feeling like doing. But I don't know if it's gonna work out because it could be tricky to render such beauty, I guess. And also summer keeps on giving. We're almost in November and I still have some flowers in my garden. And let me show you. Look at this. I mean, that's a lot of gorgeous flowers. I keep saying, oh, this is the last of my flowers, and more flowers keep popping up. Snapdragons, these are called snapdragons. They're the gift that keeps on giving. They keep popping the whole season, they're amazing. I'll quickly prep together a nice little bouquet and I'm gonna start painting. P.S. A lot of you said that they were missing oil pastel videos. I understand how you feel, I get it, because I've been in your position before. I've been more inspired to use acrylic for the past couple of years and I don't see that changing. However, sometimes I do feel like popping out other materials like oil pastels because I do like them. I just don't like to use them on the daily. But today, I really feel like creating that landscape in an impressionist style, kind of like Derain, you know, kind of like this painting that I studied of Derain, André Derain. I like using oil pastel in a bolder style like that, so that's what I'm doing. I used a watercolor pencil to sketch because I was hoping that using a bit of water, it would kind of make my sketch disappear. I used the Derwent Sap Green, number 49. And for colors, I'm using Holbein W93, which is ultramarine light, and Horizon Blue, number 104. I did a little bit of a mix of both. When it comes to watercolor, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm just winging it. I have no knowledge of it, don't know how it works. I'm using my favorite oil pastel paper, which is Somerset. It's a luscious paper that feels really nice. It feels super smooth, but there is a little bit of grit to it, but not like a texture that is hard to cover. It takes oil pastel like a dream. It makes really crappy, cheap oil pastel look very opaque and nice. And it feels kind of like fabric almost, you know? But I don't know if it's a good paper for watercolor. I just haven't done the research. I just decided to use my favorite oil pastel paper. So Somerset is a good one. I really love this reference photo, but it's gonna be challenging. There's so much foliage, a lot of it, and I want to simplify this. So my challenge is going to be simplification for the sketch and for the rendering of the foliage. It's gonna be quite a tricky to translate this into a very simple painting in simple shapes. I think I'm gonna have to leave a lot of stuff out. I might leave some trees out as well. Just pick and choose what I like. Whatever happens, hopefully I learned something, and I'm gonna try to like really enjoy the process, you know? And like really pay attention to the little bits of the process that feel good and interesting, so that I keep going in a more in the flow direction instead of making things hard for myself. I don't feel like making art that is tedious and hard anymore. Just wanted it to be fun and breezy. It's my quest. My puppy needed affection, and basically I decided to come and sketch on the couch. I've been keeping a little journal while painting lately for a little while, just because I'm trying to make the process the most fun it could be. And I'm having issues sometimes during the process and enjoying certain bits of the process, and I'm trying to kind of analyze my thought process and why things are not going super smooth sometimes, just to make it better, you know? And one thing that I realized was that when I first start a painting, the first layers are good, but then when it gets to the middle part, I get really overwhelmed by everything there is to paint in a reference photo, and deciding what to keep, what to take out, especially in landscapes where I feel like there's so much foliage and everything seems like it's all the same. So I really get overwhelmed, and when I get overwhelmed, I get impatient, and when I get impatient, I rushed through certain bits of the painting, and then it really affects how I love the result of my painting, just because I rushed through it. And it made me think that maybe for my own personality and my own process, it might be a good idea to spend more time on a more detailed sketch in the after my first layer. So that's what I'm gonna try to do now. My little puppy wanted affection. I'm just trying to sketch in a more accurate way the things that I want to keep in the painting and letting go of the things I want to take out to simplify this painting. We'll see how it goes. Oh my god, this completely reminded me why I stopped using oil pastel. It's so messy. The fingers get super dirty under your nails, like it's unwashable, and there's crumbs everywhere. But it also reminded me why I love oil pastel. The texture is so luscious and delicious. It's creamy and I love it. I love the texture it gives. You get like nice, expressive like strokes. And I'm really happy that I was able to get tree foliage without stippling. I'm really happy about that. As you saw, I was breaking oil pastels and using the sides to like create expressive movements, and it gave like a little feathering edge and a lot of movement in the foliage, and I like to use it like that. I never used it like that for trees before. So that's something I'm gonna keep in mind and redo for sure. When it comes to the final result, there's a lot of it that I like, but some of it, obviously, like in every piece, some of it I feel like I could improve. My main issue, like I was mentioning before, was I think I need to work a little bit more on my sketch before starting with color, because I get overwhelmed and impatient and I need like a more structured, simplified sketch. And now, because I already was pretty much very far along the way in my painting, the tree was already there, the proportions were off, so things were too big, and it gave a sense of being a lot more zoomed into the photo as opposed to the reference, so that expansive and airy feeling is not as much there, which is fine, but if I had taken the time to do a more accurate sketch and a more simplified sketch, I would have been less overwhelmed and happier with that, with the proportions of whatever is in the horizon, smaller, what is where, what do I keep. For this one, I kind of worked with what I had, and overall it gave an interesting painting, I think. And I think the more I look at it, the more I like it. I'm just finished with it, so it's impossible for me to judge how much I love it at this stage, but I think I like it. I think there's something like that draws you in. Maybe it's the darkness of the pond, and it might look to your eye like I covered all of the watercolor layer I had initially, but a lot of it is showing. It's just that they kind of meld so well together that you don't really see it. In the foreground, I added some oil pastel, but not in a very opaque way, and I didn't add as much as you think I did. It's just that a few strokes makes you feel like everything is oil pastel, but there's a lot of watercolor underneath where you see the transparencies. I worked a little bit on the tree trunk with oil pastel, but I was trying to not work too much with it, and I think I achieved a really good balance there. I didn't touch the sky, and in the pond I just added dots of oil pastel on top of whatever layer of watercolor I had, so I didn't really touch most of the pond in that sense. What I would rework maybe is the weeping willow in the center. I think it's kind of muddled a little bit. It lacks a little definition, I think. But overall, I think I got a good balance between the bold orange reds and the more like the yellowy, greeny foliage. Sometimes in autumn landscapes, I find it's easy to put too much red and then you don't see anything else. I think I kept it well balanced in that sense. I could have gotten an even better balance of color values if I kept the lake, the pond, and the grass in the foreground more neutral. So maybe even my watercolor color choices were very bold colors, you know. If I had neutralized everything and used more grayish, beige, brownish grays, it might have made the foliage, the yellows, orange, and reds pop even more, and the greens that I used in the foliage, it might have helped those greens pop even more, because now there's a lot of green and we're losing some of the richness of the green because there's too much of it. But we'll never know because I didn't do that. Overall, I like it. What do you think? Have you ever tried watercolor and oil pastel? To me, it's one of the most successful mixed media combination. If you have other really cool combination that you really like using in mixed media that gives striking results, please share it in the comments. I'd like your recommendations. If you know someone who likes art, please share my art vlogs with them. It really helps me. So thank you in advance. If you want more autumn inspiration, watch this one. It's full of autumn goodness and beauty. Go watch it, and I will see you in just a few days for another one. Thanks so much for watching.